And we're live. What is going on, everybody? My name is Nikki Smokes. You were listening to The Smoke Show. I am joined by my co-hosts, Bobby and Jay. Week 7 is in the books. The Miami Dolphins are 4-3. They're in the third place in the AFC East. Third place in the AFC East. That kind of sounded gross coming out of my mouth. Today, we're going to be talking about the current state of the Miami Dolphins and how we're feeling about the team going forward. And yes, John Santos, before we keep going, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. But I want to start with you, Jay, because me and Bobby, we've been doing the in-persons. I haven't heard Jay's wonderful voice in a while. The Dolphins are 4-3, currently in third place in the AFC East. We just lost Brandon Jones. We lost Nick Needham. We don't know when we're getting Byron Jones back. Teron Armstead's in and out of the lineup. But yet the Miami Dolphins have still found a way to be 4-3 after all of that. Right now, where do you see the Miami Dolphins? Do you think they can win a playoff game with how the roster is currently constructed?
If we're healthy, which I think is the biggest if in the world, and it's been something that's
Well, here's the thing, Jay, and I don't mean to cut you off 2 seconds into your answer, but we're not healthy. We don't have Brandon Jones. We don't have Nick Needham, and we don't know if we have Byron Jones. So right now, with knowing that Brandon Jones and Nick Needham, I mean, we knew Nick Needham was done for a couple of weeks now, but now adding Brandon Jones to that conversation, how does that impact how this team's going to make a run in the playoffs?
If we're talking about right now, currently constructed, no trades, and like as the health is right now, I'm not in love with it. Obviously, we're in the middle of the season where everyone's battling through injuries. It just seems like our injury list is always longer than every other team. So with that, with the laundry list of injuries, like I will say, I'm not as confident as I was if we were fully healthy, obviously, but I still think the resiliency we've shown has kind of played into that playoff football type of thing where next man up, and like just shout out to Josh Boyer and this defense because they've suffered the most injuries, and yet we're keeping teams to 10 points. So
I get that all the time, by the way. My aunt tells me every time I see her, I fucking hate it. I'm like, fuck that loser. Sorry.
No, but yeah. So I think like I love the resilience we've shown. I think we're a playoff team for sure. And I think depending on the matchup, as long as we're not matching up with like a powerhouse like the Bills in the playoffs, I think we could win a playoff game as of right now. But again, it's all about what happens in the context of what happens. I think right now you have to focus on winning your next 4 games and going on this 5-game winning streak because your schedule gets harder at the end of the season. You need to win these games. You need to make your layups. And that's what these games are, if we're being very honest. I'm not taking the lines lightly, but these are games you should win and you have to win, to be honest with you, especially starting off 4-3 now. I will say to be over 500, we all know where we were last year, being 1-7, and this is obviously a big step up from that. But I also think the expectations coming in with bringing in guys like Tyreek Hill, Teron Armstead, and third year Tua Tagovailoa, as well as bringing in head coach Mike McDaniel, the expectations were a lot more for this year than they were last year too. So you have to keep that in mind. It's not like people are always saying like, oh, remember where we were last year? Like, how can you not be happy with this? Well, it's like the expectations are way more than last year. Last year was still kind of a development year. If we can find a way to get into the playoffs, that'd be great. But we weren't even expecting to win a playoff game. This year, I'm expecting, like, if you miss the playoffs, everything needs to change. Like that's a huge miss because we just had 2 winning seasons under Brian Flores, and then listen, we all like Mike McDaniel, but that means firing Brian Flores was for nothing. That's what that means if we miss the playoffs. So I think making the playoffs is huge. And again, we can all talk about how much of an improvement this is on last year. I will say with all the injuries we've dealt with, it's nice to be at 4-3. We're in a good spot, but it all depends on what we do in these next 4 games because they are layups. You have to make your layups. I'm going to stress that more than anything.
I'd say they're like contested layups.
I'd say no, but in the context of an NFL season, these are layups. It's not a Chargers team. It's not
right compared to the next 4 games after these 4 coming up. Yes, they are considered layups. The Lions game is probably the one that makes me most nervous, just because not having Brandon Jones. I know we haven't had Nick Needham, but look, Noah got absolutely picked on all game long. Xavier Howard did a great job. Javon Holland did a great job. All those guys in the secondary did a great job. Noah got picked on. If he didn't get that interception, we would be drilling him into the dirt right now. The Lions, they are not afraid to air it out. I know they only have 6 points in their last 2 weeks combined, but still, I mean, don't think Jared Goff's a good quarterback, but he has a great arm. He's got a cannon, and they got weapons over there in Detroit. So it's going to be another huge test for our defense. And shout out Josh Boyer, man. That guy's going to be a head coach. If he keeps doing this, he's going to be a head coach. What he's been able to do with the amount of adversity and injuries that this defense has been through, it's been phenomenal. That man deserves a raise, and he could go be a head coach. But it's got to be sustainable. You can't have it for 1 to 2 weeks. The defense is finally starting to look good. They were terrible the first. I mean, they really weren't terrible.
2 weeks.
I mean,
1.5 weeks, actually. 1.5 weeks.
They looked bad against Baltimore. They looked great against the Bills. They just couldn't get off the field. I don't think they played that bad against the Bengals, and they played great against the Vikings. What game am I missing? The Jets.
The Jets, yeah.
Jets. Yeah, so outside of those 2 games, the defense has been good, in my opinion.
And the second half of the Ravens game, it was fantastic. Like, that was part of the reason we made the comeback.
I think the Ravens only scored like 7 points or something in the second half, something stupid. Anyway, the defense has been great. But I want to go back to what you were saying about how the roster is currently constructed, and you don't necessarily love our chances to win a playoff game with what we have right now. Or you said you're comparing Flores and McDaniel, right? It's like, well, we kind of upgraded for no reason. And I think that's an excellent point. We went from McDaniel to Flores because we wanted to what? Get into playoff games and win a playoff game. We also moved on from Brian Flores because we didn't want to have 20 points per game. We wanted an explosive offense, an offense that's built around Yak and getting the ball to guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert. And then you look at the stats and it's like, whoa, we have like 500 yards a game and we're only scoring 21 points per game. And then you look at Brian Flores' offense or whoever those bums were calling the plays last year, and it's a point differential. We're scoring 1 more point on average this year than we were last year. And everyone's like, well, you're an idiot, dude. We didn't have Tua for 3 games. Well, we also didn't have him for 3 games last year or 4 games when we had to start Jacoby Brissett for those 4 games. So Flores' numbers are going to be worse because they didn't have Tua. And same with McDaniels. I get that. But in the grand scheme of things, we're still not scoring enough points even with our starting quarterback out there. What do you think of that, Bobby?
I mean, just kind of like what you said, it's not really, I don't mean to make it an excuse, but you do kind of have to look at the facts. What's the common denominator between the 3 games we lost this year? Tua didn't play. No Tua. Right. When Tua's on the field,
we have Armstead and
exactly.
I mean, it's been more than 2
games.
I agree 100%.
Like those 3 games are brutal. And we have to make this clear because we don't want to make excuses. We could have won all those games, but there was also more key pieces missing than just Tua. I believe Tua is the biggest key that was missing, but I don't know. That could be actually up for debate because when Teron Armstead comes in with Tua back, the offensive line is completely different. Completely different.
And it's like it's such a weird way this season has gone on because 4-3 could feel so many different ways. For us, 4-3 at this point feels a bit disappointing because you come out and you win the first 3 games, 2 of which games you were underdogs, 1 of which people didn't give us a shot to beat Buffalo. So we went out and did that. And then all of a sudden you lose 3 games that are kind of a lull in the schedule. And all of a sudden it's like, well, we just ruined the whole season. What did we do? All this progress is gone. But then you bounce back and beat the Steelers. Maybe it wasn't in the most convincing fashion. And I know that we were pretty negative, Smoke, in person when we were just like, yeah, we beat the Steelers, but this, that. Hey, man, we got the win. And at the end of the day, the stats and all that don't matter. All I want is that W at the end. And that's what we were able to go out there and get. So it does give me a little bit of confidence moving forward, just knowing that when Tua has played a full game, we are winning games. The problem is Tua doesn't always play a full game. And to add to that, the injuries are just stacking on top of each other, man. They really are stacking on top of each other. But the positive is at some point you got to think it stops. I don't know if that's just crazy. That's just me hoping, praying, wishing. But you would think at some point these injuries are going to slow down. There's going to be guys that get back in the lineup. McDaniel's going to get Tua. I mean, Tua had to have been rusty last week. I don't think it was his best game. The offense didn't play well.
Which game of the year?
Everything should start to grow, should start to mesh. Tua and McDaniel said it themselves in their interview today, and they've said it all season, that the last game you played should be your worst and there should be room for improvement. And we see that room for improvement. They know it. They were both asked in their presser today exactly what Smoke said. What's going on, man? The offense is scoring crazy points. Your points per game, points, not points. Points is the wrong word. Your yards per game is crazy. Your yards per play is crazy. You got 2 receivers in the top 5. It's like all that looks good, but they know that they need to score more points. And I got to trust and hope that they're going to get that together. Because to me, they were doing it the first 3 weeks. Maybe the points weren't coming in bunches, but we were at least scoring enough, and we felt like those were comfortable wins. Like that Ravens game, that Bills game, we weren't pissed about the offense. The offense was fine. You lose your quarterback for 3 weeks. He comes back. Pittsburgh looks rusty. Now, like Jay said, all these next 4 games, we're going to be a favorite in, like a gambling betting favorite. We should win these games. So I want to see him go out and win it. And if we do that, take care of business, I feel like we'll be right back on track. Lord knows the Jets are going to fade off. Everyone knows it. When Smoke said we were 3rd in the division, it did feel absolutely gross because who would have thought 4-3 got you at 3rd in the division at this point in time? But hey, man, it is what it is. I'm a bit more optimistic than I have been in past weeks right now.
Hey, real quick, I just want to add something onto that. Yes, I believe the Jets are going to fall off, but I think that's due to injury. I honestly think they have a pretty solid roster over there. I hate the Jets. They make me sick, but I'm going to give credit where it's due. They looked so much better than any of us could have anticipated, and it's honestly absolutely insane that football team is 5-2. So
Sal's doing his thing.
He is doing his thing over there.
I think he built the team correctly. They're building through the trenches, and they got some good cornerbacks out there too, which I think is like the 3 most important positions other than quarterback. I will say, to be honest, I think their biggest question is Zach Wilson. I know we're a Dolphins panel over here, so obviously we're biased, but I don't think Zach Wilson has shown that much. It's been a lot of Breece Hall, who unfortunately got hurt. Obviously, they brought in James Robinson as well. I do like the way they built their team, the way they built the draft, and the guys that they brought in. But I will say, because of Zach Wilson being the most important piece and the fact that he hasn't really shown that much yet, I do think that's the reason they're going to fall off. And again, obviously we're biased, and I think we can all agree the way they built their team is pretty solid. And Robert Saleh, like you said, is doing his thing, but Zach Wilson hasn't shown anything. To be honest, they're even protecting their. That is a running the heavy shit out defense. Of the ball, dude. That is a run heavy defense. They made, right away when Breece Hall got injured, they knew they were fucked, and they had to trade for James Robinson. Like they did it right away. It was like a day.
And while we're talking about divisional teams, how about this Patriots situation going on over here? Because I'm just eating my popcorn, loving that shit. Getting steamrolled by the Bears on Monday Night Football. All of a sudden, you're flip-flopping quarterbacks like you're the Michigan Wolverines or something. We don't know who's starting. We don't know who's healthy. We don't know who's good. Is Zappy crap? Is Mac crap? Who knows? But I'm eating my popcorn over here and loving it.
That. Bro, could you imagine if the Miami Dolphins did that? Like if they just benched Tua for Skyler, the outrage that would transpire in our community and on the national media, and then you go back out and start Tua the week later. If it wasn't Bill Belichick, everyone would be looking at Mike McDaniel like, yo, this guy's an absolute idiot. And that's just what's going on with the Patriots. And then you see who's the receiver that spoke out? It was what's his face?
Jacoby Myers.
I think it was Jacoby. No, I think Jacoby plays for the Bears now or something. No, that's N'Keal Harry. I'm getting them all mixed up. Anyway, you're right. It was Jacoby. He's like, you hate to see your dog go out there and get played like that. You hate to see that. Love it, Bill Belichick losing the locker room. The Patriot fans are like, oh, we're back. We're 3-3. And then you get absolutely steamrolled by the Chicago Bears. Just things you love to see. But I want to ask you guys, because the Patriots did go to Zappe or Zap, whatever the hell his freaking name is.
Bro, put a French accent on that thing.
Could you imagine if the Dolphins ever did that with Tua? Do you like that's? I don't even think that's a possibility. Like I could never see Dolphin fans at the Hard Rock Stadium cheering for Skylar Thompson to come in the game.
Wait a minute.
Tua Tagovailoa.
Boys, now that I think about it, we did this. The Dolphins did this with Fitzpatrick and Tua.
We did.
Oh, yeah, they did do that.
This actually happened.
We didn't flip-flop between weeks. We flip-flopped in the middle of games, man.
Between quarters.
That's crazy. And remember how crazy that got? I'm glad that we don't have to deal with that. As long as Tua stays healthy, he's good to go. And I don't want to be flip-flopping quarterbacks. So let's get Tua back on track. Let's keep him winning games because I'm loving what I'm seeing so far. When Tua's playing games, when Tua
plays, we win.
We're 4-0.
When he plays, we win.
In the last 11 games with Tua at the
home. Here's the thing. Even when Tua goes out there, it looks mid, and I'm looking over at Bobby, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck is this? Like, what is this kid doing? I look up at the scoreboard. I'm like, oh, shit, we won. And then it's like Tua goes out there. He throws for 467 yards, 6 touchdowns. I'm like, yo, this kid is freaking good. And I look at the scoreboard, and I'm like, oh, shit, we won. And it's just like we just keep winning and winning and winning and winning and winning with this kid. And, dude, he has his flaws. He has his limitations. He still refuses to slide and throw the ball away. He's still refusing to do all that. But, man, when he plays, this team just wins. They're 10-2. in their last 12 with Tua, bro.
Nah, bro.
And it's not
Don't
like
include
they're
that
going
Bengals
up
game.
against schmomos. Like, they're not going up against schmucks. Like, they're beating the Ravens. They're beating the Bills. They're beating, I mean, the Patriots are schmucks, but they're beating good teams, the Steelers or whatever. But, I mean, if you date back to last year, I mean, we did kind of beat up on some shitty quarterback. Why did I keep speaking? Why did I keep speaking? We are 10-2 with Tua in his last 12. That is all that freaking matters.
Hey,
That's
we're
it.
10-1. Don't apply that Bengals loss to Tua Tagovailoa, man, because they're including that in that record, 10-2, because he
They
started
are?
that game technically.
He
Yeah,
started
because he
it.
started that game. So we're 10-1 in games that he starts and finishes. Because I don't know how you could include
Well,
that Bengals game. As
did they
Tua's
give
loss.
him the win against Baltimore then?
Yeah. Well,
in that
yeah.
record?
What?
Because
He
he
came
didn't
back and
start
played.
that. I'm talking about last year.
Oh,
When he
that
came
I
in
have
at
no
halftime.
idea.
No,
No
I
idea.
think he gets the. I do not think.
I thought
I
he
think the
got the
quarterback
loss.
that starts the game gets the result. I'm pretty sure that's how it works, which
I
is
don't
the
know.
big reason why this
Regardless,
quarterback needs to
10-2,
stop.
10-1. It's butter.
It's dub
when that
season.
kid's on the
Yeah.
field. It's a dub. It's a
I mean, you
freaking
already brought
dub.
it up, Smoke. Do we talk about Tua and his failures to slide, his love of contact?
Yeah, here, I'll start with that. Man, look, Tua, I love you. You're a warrior. You're an absolute savage. And when I'm in the moment, when I'm at the game and you lower your shoulder, I'm fired up. I'm like, that's a cool bit right there. But then it's like I look up and I'm like, oh, damn, like he only got an extra 0.5 of a yard. He didn't even get the first down. It's still 3rd and 1, 2nd and 1. And I'm like, oh, my God, like could have just got another concussion. You know, anytime Tua gets hit, I hold my breath. I'm like, but last year, it was anytime Tua dropped back and threw the ball further than 30 yards, I was like, oh, my God, it's going to get picked. That feeling's gone. But now my new, like, bad feeling with Tua is when it gets hit. So then when he's extending plays and he's initiating the contact on linebackers, although he kind of ran through that motherfucker, it worries me, dude. I don't like to see it. If he was 6'5", 245 like Josh Allen, by all means, it's lit. But Tua, you've already missed too many games. And like I said, the only way the Dolphins win is when you are on the field and you need to protect your body at all costs. I don't need you running people over. I need you pop, 3-step, boom, hit him in the face mask. Maybe Mike Gesicki will catch it this time. Stop throwing potential interceptions at the end of the first half. You know, that's all I care about. Just get the ball out of your hands, and I don't need you initiating contact. I don't, brother. It's not high school anymore.
Yeah, man. And they asked him about it in his interview today, and he was just like, yeah, everyone on my coaching staff was like, you can't do that anymore, Tua. And I'll sit up here and tell you guys I'm going to slide. But at the end of the day, I'm a football player, and if I see the first down, I'm going to go get that thing, which I can like somewhat appreciate. Like as a gamer, as a competitor, you want your quarterback to be like, I will do absolutely anything in my power to help this team get first downs, touchdowns, win games. You love to see that. And you know he's got that mentality. But by the same token, I think it's his biggest flaw, man. I really do. Because when he's going out there and he's creating contact, albeit he didn't get hurt on those particular plays, at this point, he has to know that injury history and fragileness, however you want to phrase it, is a problem for him. And the Dolphins are winning football games when he's on the field. So he does have to change that around and make it a priority, man. And I get it. He wants to help the team. He wants to do the best thing he can do. But to do the best thing he can do for this team is him staying on the field. Look at the injury in question versus the Bengals, man. He throws that thing away. We're not talking about it. Maybe we win that game. We win the Jets game. We keep the thing rolling, but instead he wants to keep the play alive, do this, do that, and make a play. You guys remember Peyton Manning in the NFL? When that guy had anyone even near him, he's getting down on the ground because he knows without me, this team is fucked. And not to that degree because Peyton Manning is an all-time legend, but Tua needs to start realizing that, hey, I can take my L's sometimes. Hey, maybe me not getting this first down and having to punt, maybe that sucks in the moment. But for the long term of the season, that's going to be what I need to do to help this team the most.
I do have a problem with what you just said there. Because if it's 3rd and 1, like let's say it's 3rd and 7, and he's scrambling, and he could pick up that extra yard, but he slides a yard short, and we have to punt, I'm pissed. I am livid. That's not what I want.
That's a double-edged sword, though. That's a double-edged sword. That's a double-edged sword right there. Because you can take football. I agree.
If it's 3rd and 8 and you can make a play to get the first down, I'm with it. But I don't need you on 1st and 10 or 2nd and whatever, and you're just initiating contact and you're not picking. Like, I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
See, if it's like, if
it's a moment, say we're on the 50-yard line, it's 3rd and 7, and Tua could run and take off to pick up the first down, and he slides a yard before, and we punt, I'm livid. I am livid.
See, I'm with you. If it's weak, if it's the end of the game, it's all coming down to it. You need this first down to go out there and try and close the game out for sure. Go do it. We'll take our risks there. If it's a playoff game, definitely go do it. But if it's the first quarter of a Steelers game,
it's situational based.
I agree. I can 100% agree to that.
Drive and it's like, dude, we need this first down, and he could get that thing. He needs to go get it. That's what I expect from a quarterback. But again, you're 100% right. Like, for example, the play that he got slammed on the back of his head, like he didn't have to make a crazy play out of that. Like there's plenty of time left before he got slammed on the back of his head. In my opinion, it has to be situational. That's it.
That's where I'm at too.
You got to pick your battles is the famous saying. You got to pick your freaking battles.
100%.
That's where I'm at too. I'll be honest. I agree with both of you. I think I'm more like, by the way, I should say in the moment, I think it's awesome. Like I love seeing that passion. I love seeing the effort. You get jacked up, seeing a guy at his size trying to run over people who are twice his size. It's great to see. And obviously I was going to bring up the point about how last year, no one had a word when he trucked Michael Carter on the Jets. And everyone's like, oh, this is awesome. I was going to say that, but in my mind, I just realized the situation has changed with the head injuries now. With him having suffered one concussion, maybe two, we don't know. Like, obviously, that's still up in the air. You want to believe whatever you want to believe. We'll never know. I just think with that new information, you are right. He probably shouldn't do it as much. And I do think it should be situational because first, second down, whatever. I will say third down, end of the game, you probably should be fighting for that first down. And again, we'll see because Tua himself has said he'll tell everyone he wants to slide. Like Bobby said, he said in his press conference, he'll tell everyone that. He'll have the intention of doing that. But when the game is in the game, it's a split-second decision, and you have an opportunity to help your team win. I think Tua Tagovailoa is doing whatever he can. I think he would do whatever in the world that he can to get that first down, which, again, like Bobby said, I think we can all respect, and I think we all love, and I like that my quarterback has that type of mentality instead of just being like, let me just go down and survive another day. Like, I want to go win this game. It's just that I think it's something that we need to understand as fans and that he needs to understand as a quarterback is that after suffering that head injury, like there's a difference in terms of what you can take and what you can't take anymore. He said in the Maria Taylor interview, which by the way was fantastic. If you haven't checked that out, go check that out. It's like a 22-minute sit down. You should go check that out with Maria Taylor. It's 22 minutes. It's Sunday the one with Maria Taylor, Sunday Night Football.
And he said, I keep receipts.
And that's the one where it's from, where he says that to keep receipts, but he also says, he talks about the same thing he talked about in the press conference, but it's like, he needs to understand that the situation has changed with his health, with what he could do in the past, he can't do anymore. And obviously that plays a part into what we've talked about this whole time is that Tua needs to be on the field for us to win. Whether you hate him, whether you love him, whatever the case is, we win with him. I don't care if it's the defense's fault. I don't care if we score 40 points on special teams. When he's in the game, we win. That's just what it goes. And you saw, by the way, speaking of what Bobby just said, it clicks. You see the vibes when he's back in the locker room, when he's back on the practice field, when he's coming out of the tunnel.
When they announced him on Sunday Night Football, bro, that place was going nuts.
It felt like D-Wade coming out of the American
Airlines. I have
a
question for you guys, actually, because we see on Twitter a lot of negativity and a lot of love. I'll be honest, there's no middle of that spectrum. It's just all love, all hate. But it does seem like in Miami, it's mostly just love for Tua. I just had a question for you guys. Obviously,
at the game, like Tua was almost as big as the team.
That's what I'm saying. Like, is it that like where everyone's on it, everyone's riding with them?
Like 22 a chance, or at least
Tua chance up the ass. Like when he came out, it got the loudest pop. People love Tua. Twitter is such a fake world where people can just put out these like opinions and it has no repercussions. But when you're at the game in the stadium, it's like when all the energy comes together, where it's like, yo, the only thing I want here is to win. And Tua is our quarterback leading us. All I want to see him do is be successful. It's such a different energy and different feeling than when you log on Twitter and see what people are saying. 1,000%, Jay.
All right, last thing on Tua, and then we'll kind of move on to injuries and some other topics. Ace of Spades 34 says, Smoke, did you see the
watch the Buffalo game?
How is that not a worry for you? I've seen
watch the Buffalo game.
So many quarterbacks have dropped interceptions. It's part of the game. Now, did some of those decisions worry me? Yes, of course. But at the end of the day, it happens with every single quarterback in the league. At the end of the day, I look up, I see the scoreboard, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're 10-2 with Tua Tagovailoa. Is there certain plays where it's like, damn, is that worrisome? Yeah, but is there also some plays where he's making these throws, and I'm like, I cannot believe he just put that in his window? Absolutely. Does it bother me? No, because they're dropped, and that's why those guys play defense. Could the decision making be better? Sure. But when you go back and you watch how Josh Allen played against the Miami Dolphins, was it a problem? Yeah. I mean, we should have had 5 interceptions against Josh Allen. I think Patrick Mahomes leads the league in most dropped interceptions. So I'm not saying that I sleep good at night and I'm happy that, these guys are dropping 5 to 6 interceptions. I mean, it's not a game. I mean, I went back last year. I watched the New England Patriots game, and I think that was one of Tua's worst games. You want to talk about players dropping picks? That game was terrible. I'm talking about the home game to close out the end of the year. Does it worry me? Yeah, but at
if
the
your
end
aunt
of the
had
day,
balls, she'd be your uncle, bro. Like they weren't caught.
Look,
They
man,
weren't
at the end of the day, I look at guys like Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan and all these absolute dog shit quarterbacks, and then I'm looking at Tua and I'm like, dude, life is not that bad. Like, it could be a lot worse. I've seen Tua make a lot of great plays. Some are bad decisions, some are good decisions. But at the end of the day, when we have Tua, this team wins. And when he's on the field, in my opinion, he's a top 15 quarterback in the league right now. And you have to be grateful to even have that, because the quarterback play in the NFL is atrocious once you get outside of the top 15.
He also leads the league in yards per pass attempt and all that type of stuff. All those statistics, he leads that. We all wanted him to push the ball down the field more. This is a result of that. All the top quarterbacks have way more interceptions because they're trying to fit the ball into side windows because they are the best quarterbacks. That's what they do. If you want your quarterback to be in that upper echelon, that's gonna happen. If he's pushing the ball down the field more, he'll have more interceptions, he'll have more dropped interceptions. But you live with that because most of the time he's pushing the ball down the field and he's hitting Tyreek Hill and he's hitting Jalen Waddle. That's just how it works. If you're just going to go underneath every time, sure, you won't get picked off. If I remember correctly, if I have a brain, that's what everyone got on for. Oh, we don't care if he throws like a couple more interceptions. He should throw the ball down the field.
Yep.
That's what he's doing this year. He's literally doing everything that everyone wanted to do in the past few seasons. I'm not going to lie. That's literally what he's doing this year. So, yes, there will be a couple more of those types of games. But again, all these top quarterbacks lead in those types of statistics because they're the ones who are good enough to put the ball in those tight windows.
And the thing about it is I feel like on this show, we've been very fair. Like after that Pittsburgh game, I remember me and Smoke sitting next to each other being like, Tua didn't play great. Tua had overthrows.
No,
Tua had drop picks. So you can take that thing into context and talk about it and be like, man, Tua didn't play great. They did drop some picks. He did have some bad ball placement. It's all fair criticism, and I feel like we do a great job of bringing it up, even to the point of sometimes people are like, you guys are hating on Tua. You guys aren't even happy. We won the game. It's like, no, we are happy. We are beyond happy and thankful to win the game. But sometimes you just got to point out the mistakes. But when you're winning, it's fine. I'll take a W and 25 dropped interceptions every single day of the week. Don't get it twisted. But we are going to hold them accountable. We are going to talk about it. We are going to let you know we're bringing it up. We're not giving them passes and excuses. It happens in the NFL. It's a part of the game. As long as he's getting the job done at the end, it's straight.
Say we lost the game and he had 6 dropped interceptions. Then does it change your opinion?
I mean, if we lost the game, yeah, for sure. It's got to change your opinion because winning cures all. All I want at the end of the day is W's, man. If he went out there and threw 25 picks, but we won the game versus a game where he threw 0 interceptions and we lost, give me the 25 picks and the win. I don't really care about the stat lines. I just want the W's. But when you're on a show talking about it every day and addressing and saying, what did we see? What did it look like? You're going to bring this kind of stuff up, and I think it's fair criticism. Well, at the end of the day, give me W's, baby. Give me W's.
It's all about the W at the end of the day, but you are allowed to analyze. The thing is with Tua stands and Tua haters, and again, we've talked about how there's no middle ground on that. It seems like people think that if you criticize Tua Tagovailoa's play, that you're hating on him.
Yeah,
that is not the case. Listen, I love Tua Tagovailoa more than anything. I think everyone knows that. People say I'm the biggest Tua fan on this show, at least. He had a poor game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and by the way, he knows. I know he has some throws where he wants back. I know there's throws that he makes in his sleep that he didn't. The throw to Waterway throws it super high. You know he wants to put that bitch out in front of him and put him in for 6. You know that. And you see Tua on the sideline pissed.
Yeah, but I feel like we say that every week.
What?
Like we say that a lot.
This is the first game this year.
That one back.
This is the first game this year we've said that.
Back. No, we've said that 100 times.
No, in past seasons, but not this year.
I agree. No one's going to be perfect. And that's kind of what I'm getting at here. I mean, if he threw 6 interceptions in a game, it'd be a problem. It would be a problem. But he didn't throw 6 picks. At the end of the day, he didn't throw 6 picks.
Facts only, bro. You can't. There's no such thing. There's no Is there a stat of dropped interceptions? Because if there is, who the fuck cares about it?
It's not official. It's not like an official stat. No.
It's a fake stat.
Yeah.
I could care less about dropped.
Because I looked at the box score and it said the Dolphins had 3 turnovers and the Steelers had 0. That's just the last time I checked.
Simple as that.
Also, is it like a dropped interception if Josh Allen rips a dart through a defender's hands because he didn't close his hands fast enough? Or the same thing when Tua does it when he's putting the ball into a tight window. Like all of this stuff is obviously it's within the context of the game, but like Bobby said, you can be critical of Tua without hating the player and realizing that over the course of the season he's a good quarterback. He just didn't have his best game. Over the 4 games he's played this year fully, this was his worst game. But I think that's also a positive because if your worst game is what he did, I think that's a positive, to be honest.
Shout out Triple S Podcast for the super chat. Number 3 in the league in turnover-worthy plays, 6% behind Justin Fields, 6.3%. Dak, 6.2%. It's all good when you're beating scrubs. Doesn't fly versus the elite. I mean, we beat Baltimore. We beat Buffalo.
That's the most ironic thing in the world.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
The 2 best teams we played, we beat. The 2 best teams we've played on our schedule this year, we have won. So don't tell me it doesn't fly versus the elite. Triple S Podcast, we love you. Absolutely for showing love. But I'm just saying, like, we beat 2 elite teams this year, in my opinion. 2, maybe the Ravens aren't elite. The Bills are elite. The Bills are the best team in football.
The Ravens are a good football team.
Great team.
Like,
I just don't know if I'm going to call them elite.
A lot better than their record says. They just can't play in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Agreed. But it's a concern. We definitely get it, and it's something he has to clean up. We're not denying that one bit, and we hope to see him clean it up.
With these numbers, though, I mean, if we're going to bring back the argument with Teddy Bridgewater and Skylar Thompson, I mean, Skylar against the Jets, he had 2 turnover worthies or turnovers, whatever the hell you want to call it. I care about our turnovers, the ones that actually happen. The turnover worthy is kind of like
exactly.
It didn't happen. If it happened, it'd be a problem. But at the end of the day, it didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's like when we come on the show, it's like, well, the Dolphins should have had 3 interceptions and we should have won the game. Well, we didn't have 3 interceptions. We didn't win the game. That's why we lost the game.
Turnover battle is so crazy with this team, man. If they win the turnover battle, they win the game. It's been like just quite literally that easy for us. And as long as Tua is taking care of the ball and not actually throwing interceptions, I don't care how many fake interceptions he has, bro. It doesn't matter to me. And especially when our defense is taking that bitch away. 3 last game had me smiling from ear to ear. So give me more interceptions for the defense, less for Tua, and we're good to go.
Jay, any closing remark?
Not really. I think we hit everything we need to hit in terms of Tua Tagovailoa. Again, it's his worst game of the year, but it was still a solid game.
He needs to play better, but I'm just saying, like, I have no problem.
If his worst game is 261 yards, 1 touchdown, no turnovers, I'll take that. If that's just going to be his worst game of the year, I think we'll all take that.
I'm tired of that. I mean, if that's his worst game, sure. I mean, he had worse numbers against Buffalo.
But he didn't have the ball.
He still had worse numbers.
Win's a win, boys. Won them both. Won them both. Don't care about the numbers.
A win is a win. I'm not arguing that. When he is on the field, the Miami Dolphins win. Let's talk about guys who aren't on the field. Brandon Jones, huge loss. He's going to be out for the rest of the year. Let's look at our cornerback secondary injury list. Brandon Jones, gone for the year. Nick Needham, gone for the year. Byron Jones, we have absolutely no idea.
He's gone for the year. He's gone for the year. He will not play as a Dolphin.
I think he's played his last game in the Dolphins uniform.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't think he's going to come back and play?
No shot.
No, there's a chance, but I just don't think so.
I think there's no shot, and I think it's not even worth bringing him up anymore. Just count him as an L. Count him as gone, and if he somehow comes back, it's like, holy shit, look at this corner we just picked up. That's how I'm rocking with it mentally from here on out.
All right, so I know that
Peter Kohu, Keon Crossing, you could have
Trill Williams for the year.
Trill Williams.
I was going to, and then you just started talking over me. So go ahead, round out the list for me, Bobby.
I just did.
Yeah, we just did.
Right. Okay, so that's like, what was that? 7 players in our secondary that are pretty much done for the year. I mean, Kohu will be back. Crossing should be back. That's what McDaniel said.
Yes.
So hypothetically, those guys come back this week or next week. How do you feel about our secondary going forward for the rest of the year? Because the NFL, it's not a sprint. It's clearly a marathon. And we have to – the most important games are week 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And that's all about who's healthy, who's rolling. And those are the most crucial games to get into the playoffs. And then you look at who we're playing. The Chargers, I know they don't look great. The Niners look inconsistent. The Packers don't look great. Buffalo, I think we're going to get absolutely destroyed in Buffalo. But even with just the talent that we have remaining in the secondary, do you think it's enough for this Dolphins team to make that playoff push and maybe even win a playoff game?
I mean, not right now. As currently constructed, if this is our DB group going into this Lions game, if that's our DB group going into, say, playoffs week 1, we're getting cooked. We're getting crushed. We're getting creamed. We're getting killed. Any word you want to put it, that's not good enough. But for this stretch of games we have coming up right now, I do think we can figure out ways to manufacture wins. Because look at what we did last week. No one even threw the ball. They didn't even throw the ball at Xavier Howard. They didn't even look at him. So if we can figure out how to keep Igbo in that mediocre to below average range where he's not terrible, but he's at least somewhat serviceable, and then help him on that side, I think that's enough to get us through. But in the grand scheme of things, what we have right now, I do not believe is good enough. I do believe Chris Greer should be working the phones. And when Jay goes in a second, I know he's got some names on his mind for cornerbacks and whatnot. But now it becomes a safety issue too, because your starting safety, Brandon Jones, goes down. And mind you, he's probably having the absolute year of his life. He's been tremendous in coverage, blitzing, all over the place. And I heard Tua talking about how much those guys just love him, love being around him. He's a great locker room guy, all this, all that. Now you lose that, and it's just like, I don't know how many more hits this team can take. We got Justin Bethel, a guy who doesn't even really play corner, plays a lot of special teams, taking like first team reps on a lot of packages. So it's definitely nervy. It's definitely scary. I'm hoping that they can make a move or get some guys back, because what we saw from Keon Crossing and what's the other guy's name?
Kader Kohu.
Kader Kohu was solid stuff. If we can get those guys back, I'd start feeling a little bit better about it, and just maybe it's a blessing the injuries are happening earlier. We're figuring out a way to win games, and then by the end of the year, we can be solid. I don't know. That's at least as an optimist what I can hope for.
There's a lot to kind of dive into here. So first, I want to give context to what we did last week, because I think that's what we're going to have to do going forward. So shout out to Josh Boyer. What he did, he had Xavier on one side, taking away half the field, didn't even look over there. Then obviously Noah Benogany, he struggled a little bit in man-to-man. Obviously, we saw at the first play of the game, he got torched. And what he did, and this is kind of what you're going to have to do with Noah Benogany, he put Bethel and Igbenogany in a lot of zone and stuff like that on the other side. The other thing with that is, with Igbo, he did get picked apart, but what happens with these bad corners is, if they're just allowing the small play underneath every time, you can deal with that.
Live with that.
Because they're living with that, saying, okay, listen, just take away the big play. And we know, like, you're not Xavier Howard, you're not going to be able to erase the side of the field. That's just not what's going to happen. You're on two different planets as players. You're going to have to scheme up stuff like Josh Boyer did with having Xavier man-to-man on one side and having those two guys zoned up, because those are the 5th, 6th, 7th string cornerbacks on the team. So that's what they did, and that's what they built. So I just want to say shout out to Josh Boyer for that. And that's what you're going to have to do if these guys remain to be out. Now, with Kader Kohu, Keon Crossing coming back relatively soon, you can go back to that man-to-man style. However, I still am not completely comfortable, because this whole defense is built around Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. That's why we gave them all that money in free agency in 2020, because I've said this so many times. Our defense isn't built like normal defenses. It's a nickel-based defense, which one is very rare. Usually it's a 3-4 or 4-3 base, and we use that to be island. Like we have two guys on islands, Byron Jones and Xavier Howard on each side. That is what this defense is built around. Now, without having Byron Jones, I do think it's important that we do bring in a guy at least to help that. And I would say that without injuries. I will say Kader Kohu has played great. Keon Crossing has played great. But I still think that there's a level of, if you can bring in another guy, especially with these injuries, you just beef up the depth in that room. And especially losing Brandon Jones. And you could say the other issues, you have Eric Rowe, you should play cornerback. You'd say you move him to slot corner maybe, but now he has to come in and play strong safety for Brandon Jones, so that's not an option. And there's so much going on with this defensive back room. And I'll be honest, I don't know of any safeties other than Jesse Bates, who is nowhere near like realistic for us to trade for him. I don't know of any safeties who are available on the trade block. There are a few corners who I know are available: Greedy Williams, Sidney Jones, Bryce Hall, William Jackson. There are some corners who are available who I think it would be a good idea to trade for. A guy like Bryce Hall and Sidney Jones, they won't cost that much. They're just kind of short-term band-aids for this cornerback room, which is, I think, is all you need until Kader Kohu and Keon Crossing when you get back. But then you have a guy like William Jackson, who has struggled mightily in Washington since he signed that 3-year deal there just this past offseason, and that's why he's requested a trade. But they are a zone-heavy defense, and that's not what William Jackson does. he is a man-to-man corner, and that's why he requested a trade. I will say, like, again, who knows if he's going to bounce back in a man-to-man system. It's not like you just instantly put him back and it's going to be great. And he has a 3-year, $42 million deal. So if you want to pick that up, I don't know. You also have a guy like Greedy Williams, who's on the last year of his rookie contract, who out of college, it looked like he was doing nice. He excelled as a man-to-man corner in college, but obviously he's dealt with a lot of injuries, which is why he's being rumored to be traded before this trade deadline, as it's the last year on his rookie deal. So there's a bunch of things kind of coming in, and we'll see. I think Chris Greer should get on the phone and land one of these cornerbacks. But again, we'll see, because it doesn't seem like they're kind of enamored by that, because I do think they like their guys in Cater Kohu. I think they can just ride the train. And I'll be honest, I don't think any of us know the way they feel about Byron Jones internally. We all have our feelings outside, not knowing much. Do they think, oh, he's coming back week 13, we just got to get to that point with Keon Cross and Cater Kohu? We have no idea. So they know more than us. And obviously there's probably guys who are available that isn't known to us either as outside fans, that isn't being reported. Maybe there is a safety out there that we could replace Brandon Jones with, but obviously there's kind of not really that much information for us to go off of. And there's so much to think about when thinking about this defensive back room. So to be honest, like, we'll see. Personally, if you're asking for my opinion, I would go bring in one of these man-to-man corners just to beef up that room a little bit more.
I like that.
Really quick
We got
question on
131 people watching live. If you haven't already, hit that like button. It helps so much. It gets the video in front of more people's faces. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to hit 4K. We're almost there. We can't do that without your guys' help. We appreciate and love you guys so much for spending your time with us today. Jay just dropped so many nuggets. I'm just going to let you guys marinate. GMJ, brother. Where was I? Okay, so we just talked about the defense and our questions, but even with those guys not playing, the defense has still found a way to ball out. I mean, Jalen Phillips, we got to give him some props. I mean, he started slow. He's turning up. Christian Wilkins, balling. Emmanuel Ogba, balling. Like, the D-line's getting there. The linebackers haven't been terrible. The tackling has been so much better. So much better.
So much more physical. I love it.
100%. So the defense, even with all the injuries and adversities, they've been able to step up and rise to the challenge. Ironically, I think our biggest issue is not being able to score in the red zone. And we have every time I watch the Dolphins, we go from our 20 to their 20 like this. It's the easiest thing in the world. I'm like, yo, we're in the red zone. Like, we're really about to blow these boys out. I think I looked over at Bobby like 3 times. I'm like, dude, this is going to be a blowout. We're going to get to go at halftime and just start pounding drinks and then just sit back on our seats and just sit there and enjoy the beautiful Hard Rock lit up. And I feel like we say that pretty much almost every game. It's like, how are we not scoring inside the 20-yard line? And you guys brought up a great point. It's like, we're not really throwing the ball in the end zone. I mean, we're not even putting the ball there. We're throwing these little dumb check downs, 3-4 yards, and we're not picking up the first down. And then we go out there and we take the field goals, and then when it's 4th and 3 on the 14 and we can make it a 2-possession game, then Mike McDaniel's like, oh, no, I don't want the field goal. I'm good on that. We already went over that. We're not going to get too much into that. I mean, we could kind of tag along on that. And no, I want to save that because I want to destroy Chase Edmonds, because I owe Mike McDaniel a little bit of an apology. I still would have liked the field goal. Chase Edmonds got no vision. Like, Raheem Mostert needs to be on the field on crucial downs. He needs to be the one catching balls out of the backfield on 3rd and short, and he needs to be the one running the football on 3rd and short or 4th and 1 or any big-time situational play where the Dolphins need to get a first down or a big play. Raheem Mostert needs to be in the game, not Chase Edmonds. Back to my original point. I think our biggest concern isn't our defense, despite all of the injuries. My biggest concern for this football team, and I did call it in preseason, is the play calling and the inability to score touchdowns in the red zone. I know someone was going to put in the comments, we're third in the league in red zone efficiency. Dude, we're averaging 20 points a game. We're not scoring touchdowns. I don't want to just keep taking field goals. Now, I know field goals are a part of the game, and sometimes you're going to have to settle. But there's no way you could tell me that we're 3rd in the NFL in red zone efficiency and only scoring 20 points a game.
I agree. I think it's 100% the biggest problem, because to win football games, you need points. And quite frankly, our defense has been doing their damn job. Whenever you need to stop, you can count on the defense. When the Dolphins just need one first down, they can put the game away. They don't do it. Defense gets back out there, stands on their head, and does what they need to do. So as much as the injury concern has been monstrous on the defensive side of the football, Boyer's got them boys in check. He's doing his thing. He deserves all the credit in the world. So I'm happy to see that. But flip side, like Smoke's saying, we need to be putting the ball in the end zone. We have to be. And I don't know what the problem is because, like Smoke said, even Tua himself said, we catch the kickoff, we zoom down the field. We get the ball to the 10, no problem. Get the ball to the 30, no problem. Then all of a sudden it just stalls out. And I don't know exactly what the issue is. I don't know if it's the play calling. I don't know if it's
I think I might have an idea. I think it's when we get into the red zone and we take Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle out of the game and put Trent Sherfield in and River Craycraft. By the way, two great players, two very solid players. But when you go out there and that's your personnel on the first 2 downs inside the 20-yard line, there's no threat. And then you add Chase Edmonds into the mix, you're dead. You're basically dead in the water. You're dead in the water with that, bro.
No, I agree. Go ahead, Jay. You got it.
No, I was going to say, so not to get too deep here, but this offense thrives on creating space and the yards after the catch. That's what we do. That is what Mike McDaniel alluded to. That's what I've done some research on. This offense is about creating space. They want the defenders to cover the most space possible on the field. That is what I'm getting to. So basically, we fly down the field. It's great. We utilize the middle of the field. All of that gets compacted and compounded in the red zone.
Yep.
It gets tighter. Space isn't as much available to you in that red zone when the field compresses. Now, obviously, it's been an issue so far. I do think play calling has been an issue. I do think the running game has been an issue because once you get into that compressed field, you want to have a run game that's able to punch shit in. We don't have that right now. Obviously, again, we can make trades, whatever. Right now, it doesn't seem like we're going to. We'll see what happens. Chris Greer needs to get on the phone. We'll see what happens with that. Without a established run game other than these outside zones, which again gets compressed because you don't have as much room up the field, that is where we're at. And I'm not saying we need to go bring in a 50-50 guy. We have Cedric Wilson on the bench. We have Mike Gesicki. I don't know what the solution is in terms of what calls you or what plays you want to call, all that type of stuff. But the issue is the lack of space. And when we get down there, you have to find a way on screens, on these creative plays, which you would think Mike McDaniel has, in his brain locked up as his offensive guru. We've seen it with Jalen Waddle in the Ravens game. We've seen it, what happens when you use these little kind of tricky plays in the red zone. I'm not saying you should do it all the time, but you need to find ways to create space in that compact area. So I'm not sure what the solution is, but that's the problem. That's the problem they're facing because the game plan, by the way, again, Tua's leading the league in yards per attempt. You can't rip the ball down the field and create space down the field because it doesn't exist once you get down there. So again, I'm not sure about what the solution is. I apologize for that, but that's the issue that we're facing because the middle of the field, so compressed. You can't go down the field. You can't create space vertically. It gets compressed horizontally. So that's kind of where we're at. And again, a run game would help a lot with that, especially when you get into the red zone. I think that's would be a huge solution. But you see that what the Chiefs do. You see what they do other than when it's Travis Kelce. You have Mecole Hardman on end around. You saw in the Jets game when Raheem Mostert scored, it was on the end around. It's like those tricky kind of weirder plays just because, again, you have to get more kind of finicky when you're in there and you don't have as much space to work with. So take a play out of the Chiefs playbook. Look around, see what offenses do when they don't have a fade route to Devontae Parker and that's your only red zone offense. So I think it's so funny and it's so ironic that our offense struggles to run and struggles to score. It's like very similar to last year, but I'd also say it feels a lot different, this offense, like context wise. I think it feels a lot different. It feels a lot better, clearly because of the talent that's on the field, but it's ironic that some of the issues that we're facing have been kind of similar. So that's kind of where we're at. I think Mike McDaniel has to get in his bag a little bit. And like Smoke said, us three got on here and talked about how in the preseason that we saw these kind of similar looks and we're like, guys, listen, we're showing the vanilla package. Like, we'll see what happens in the regular season. We're not worried. I think we all weren't worried at that point. And we all said like, if it continues as a trend into the regular season, then we'll get worried. Well, to be honest, it has. Listen, you can say Tua was out for 3 of those games, but at this point it has continued this far into the season. And listen, we'll see. Maybe Tua gets back. He's get back to how he's playing in the first 3 games. We keep on rolling. He scored a lot of points in that Ravens game, but again, a lot of those touchdowns came on long kind of throws. So to me, the thing is, we got to see Mike McDaniel do what he wants to do. And this, by the way, this is a perfect time to try stuff. All this trick stuff I'm talking about, this is a perfect time again against these teams because you need to find out what works and what doesn't work. Clearly, we know what's not working right now. It's whatever the fuck we've been doing in the red zone so far. So go away from that, run the ball, and start trying stuff in these games and have some success.
He's so explosive.
The thing is, here's the thing with Raheem Mostert. And I agree with you.
Can he not pass block? Is that why?
No,
Chase
no, that's
Edmonds
not even
gets
the issue.
snapped?
This is the issue with Raheem Mostert. And I talked about this a little bit before the show. You have to shelter his touches, or else he will get hurt.
Or he'll get hurt. Yeah,
He will get hurt. He cannot be a bell cow back. You have to shelter his touches. There's no issue. So I'm playing a video obviously talking about the trade. That's why I knew a lot about these guys. You need to bring in a running back, Kareem Hunt, Cam Akers, whoever it is.
Could you imagine if we had Hunt and Raheem?
You thought it would be Chase Edmonds, to be honest. Before the season, again, I was guessing. I was completely wrong. I was completely wrong about that. I thought he was going to be a big help. Clearly, he's not. So the issue now is because you're sheltering Raheem Mostert's touches, you don't have anyone else to go to.
Great point.
You have no one else to go to. So that's why another thing that we could do with Chris Grier before this trade deadline that comes on Tuesday, the 1st at 4 p.m. Eastern, is bringing a running back. I don't think they want to spend too many assets on a running back. It's rumored that Kareem Hunt is going to be worth a fourth.
I would send a fourth for Kareem.
We do have 2 third-round picks as well, so that's obviously an option. I'm not in love with it, but we'll see what happens.
Not in love with it, but when you see him in a Dolphins uniform catching passes out of the backfield and making plays, you're going to fall in love with it.
1,000%. I'm just not for spending assets on running backs. I just think it's the most easily findable position in the league. And the problem with Edmonds is
clearly not for the Dolphins. Name the last good running back we've had since Ronnie Brown and Ricky Williams.
J.J. Yep, literally.
I agree, but
Duke
at
Johnson
the same time,
3 games.
We didn't bring Duke Johnson back. Remember him in the red zone just running through motherfuckers? He was running through motherfuckers. I don't know what it is, man. I could see it. I'd be down for it. I'd much rather sign a corner or a right tackle.
I agree. I think there's bigger needs, but if Chris Grier can't get those guys done, and he's like, all right, I can't get a tackle, I can't get a linebacker, I can't get a corner. Let me at least upgrade something. Let me get another freaking dynamic back. I'm
By the way, let me just shout out while we're on the topic, and obviously they could still add an offensive lineman. I just don't think so because they obviously want to keep their high draft selections. They're not giving up on Liam Eichenberg and Austin Jackson yet, clearly. Brandon Shell has been a fantastic addition to this offensive line at right tackle. He's been very good. To be honest, I don't think he's even that old. I wouldn't even mind extending him for a little bit. He won't cost that much, and he's been a very cost-effective option at that right tackle position. If Austin Jackson comes back and he can take Liam Eichenberg's spot at left guard, which he played last year, you have Teron Armstead, Austin Jackson, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, and Brandon Shell. And that, I'll be honest, what we saw last week, this is one of those things where you're surprised where Tua struggled as much as he did. Obviously, it was rust, but the offensive line was great when we had Brandon Shell and Teron Armstead in the game. So I don't think we're going to waste assets on that just because they still believe in their young offensive lineman anyways. And you have Liam Eichenberg as a swing tackle, swing guard, whatever you want him to be. So I just think that's kind of where you're at in terms of offensive lineman. I doubt we trade for him just because there's more pressing needs at the cornerback position. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of the trade deadline and what we plan on doing. Obviously, again, this is just coming from me and my analysis and research on the roster construction, who's available. If there's maybe a safety available, maybe I lean that way. But it seems like corners are readily available to be traded, at least from what we know that's been reported from all these people. So that's kind of where we're at. So I'd assume we bring in a cornerback, but a running back would be an embarrassment of riches. And man, imagine Kareem Hunt on this team. That'd be crazy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we're Raheem Mostert away. If he gets hurt, I mean, our injury bug's already so bad. If he gets hurt, we're one injury away from having Myles Gaskin and Chase Edmonds as our backfield. Like, that is egregious to me. Like, I am petrified to see that day come about. I mean, I'm not about that. Like, this team needs depth. We got 120 people watching live. If you just got here, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. It helps us grow this channel. We're trying to hit 4K. We can't do it without you guys. I keep reading the comments, and they are still caught up on this Tua dropped interception thing. So for the last 6 minutes, I just want to keep going into it. So everyone's talking about, dropped interceptions. Aren't you worried about that? What about the drop touchdown passes that he throws? Like the ones to Chase Edmonds, the one that bounces off Mike Gesicki's face, the route that Tyreek Hill came across and stopped running. And if he would have kept running, he probably would have caught that and took it to the house. What about all the drop touchdowns? I mean, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Are we going to start counting drop touchdowns on his touchdown total? Because if we do that, Tua might have had 3 touchdowns last week. You know, I mean, Raheem Mostert got absolutely lit up by Minkah Fitzpatrick. And I looked at Bobby. I was like, anyone's going to drop that thing, right? But it hit both of his hands. Is that not a drop? So if we're going to start counting drop touchdowns, then Tua would have had 3 touchdowns against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, I mean, if you're going to count
100%.
drop picks, start counting drop touchdowns.
This whole thing is
Quite nice rip hit. That's it right there. We love hypotheticals. Dolphins fans, all fans. That's part of being a fan. It just happens. If we did this, if we did that, I get it. It's fun to talk about, man. It's entertaining. It's cool. It's hypothetical. It's all good. But at the end of the day, what happens, and that's what you got to measure people on. It's not the dropped picks, because then you can go to the dropped touchdowns. It's what actually happened, and that's what you got to judge it based on. Is it a little bit of a concern? Do you want to see it get cleaned up? For sure. But at the end of the day, you're not going to hold someone for it. He didn't throw the picks. It didn't happen. So end of story.
I have a question for you guys. I think would you rather him push the ball down the field? On the play that he threw to Tyreek Hill on the left side when he's running down the field with Jalen Waddle, he has Raheem Mostert who ducks out after pass blocking. I think all of us like the fact that he's pushing the ball down the field. And again, this is a result of that. And I think we're all okay with that. I think the fact that he's pushing the ball down the field, trying to fit the ball into tight windows, trying to give the ball to his playmakers, quite frankly, listen, I know, again, some of the decisions are bad. I'm not trying to defend those decisions completely. I'm just saying I like the idea. I like the mentality of pushing the ball down the field, of getting the ball to those guys.
Let me add on to that. The mentality. You know, we like Tua's mentality when he's running through guys in the moment. It's got to be the right situation. And when Tua's being aggressive and taking shots downfield, I'm with that. But I do get concerned in situational moments when he has that mentality, like the interception at the end of the half or the dropped interception at the end of the half. That bothers me. Like situational interceptions, dropped or not, I look over at Bobby during the game. I'm like, dude, that could have been brutal for us. And that's why I was so pissed off at that Ravens game, again, at the end of the first half. So those situational ones piss me off. But when he's trying to force the ball downfield, that's what happens. Like, you think Patrick Mahomes, Matt Stafford, Josh Allen, like these guys don't get pissed off trying to stretch the ball down the field? Of course. Patrick Mahomes threw an interception against the Buffalo Bills in the fourth quarter. I'm not comparing Tua to Patrick Mahomes. I'm just saying, bro, not everyone's perfect. Like, I don't expect Tua to go out there and go 25 for 25, 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's not realistic. I have no problem with him being aggressive. My biggest concern is just knowing when to be aggressive and when not to be aggressive, when to slam on that gas pedal and when to tap the brakes a little bit, whether it's him trying to extend a play or trying to stretch the field. That's my only concern.
I agree. I mean, I think Tua does a great job getting the ball out quick, making decisions, doing this and that when everything's perfect. You know what I mean? When he makes his reads, he sees his guy, he's slinging that thing. But he does have to get a little bit better at not trying to force, not trying to extend plays, not trying to play hero ball, for lack of better terms. He needs to get better at that, 1,000%. But do I want to see him with that aggressive mentality, taking those shots? I love to see it. Because like Jay said, that was his biggest knock. He was Tua. He only throws it to the line of scrimmage. He only throws it 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. You're not going to throw many picks doing that. You're also not going to score many points or move the ball doing that. So let's move the ball downfield. Let's get it going. And honestly, let's fucking figure out how to score in the red zone, because that's the big thing that's holding us back right now. And if that can improve, this team is going to go to the top because the defense is playing out of their minds, man. If we start scoring 24, 28 points a game, it's going to be a hard team to beat.
We should, though. I mean, it's bullshit that this team's scoring 21 points a game. Bullshit. Mm-hmm. And I'm not giving a free pass to anyone on that offense. Tyreek Hill, Tua, Jalen, the O-line, Mike McDaniel, Raheem, Chase Edmonds. Bullshit. It's sorry that this team is scoring 21 points per game. Sorry.
Has to be better.
Just putting that out there. Needed to be said.
It's ironic that Tua got this reputation for throwing the ball short when Justin Herbert does it more. I'm not trying to compare the two. It just generally, just look at the facts. I'm not even saying Tua's better than him, any of that. I'm just saying it's ironic and it's funny to me. Like I literally just said, it's funny to me that Tua gets that rap when Austin Eckler leads yards after catch in the NFL because it's check down city. Again, by the way, speaking of that, just shout out to Javon Holland. When Josh Allen faces us, check down city. Devin Singletary going crazy. It's just funny that elite quarterbacks get credit for that, for saying, oh, you're playing situational football, but then Tua doesn't. And then when he pushes the ball down the field, I'm not even trying to compare him to these guys. I'm just saying it's funny and ironic when you hear those things. It's funny when you hear Herbert struggling without weapons, Herbert struggling without an offensive line. It's funny when you hear Aaron Rodgers can't do anything with weapons, can't do anything without his offense. Like, it's just funny when you hear those things because you're sitting here thinking that's what we've been saying, but we don't want to give credit to this one guy. And again, I'm coming off as a Tua fan, etc. He didn't have his best game. He had his worst game of the year last week. So I'm not just trying to gas Tua up. I'm just saying, for me personally, I chuckle. I think it's super funny when I hear those things about other quarterbacks because it's what Tua dealt with. But for some reason, the goalposts have moved.
He's the most polarizing. He's one of the most polarizing players in the league, like point blank,
if not the most.
Yeah, if not the most. I know we kind of live in our Dolphins bubble, so 100% to me feels like he's the most polarizing player in the league. But it's either you love him and he's doing all this great stuff, or you hate him and he's doing all this bad stuff. It's never just a clean slate, which I don't understand. But hey, man, he's winning football games. Let's hope he improves a little bit, put that ball in the end zone a little bit, and we'll be good to go. We'll be smooth sailing.
There you go. We're going to wrap up with that. So make sure you guys come back here Friday at 5 p.m. Fired Up Friday. We're going to break down the game between the Dolphins and the Lions. To everyone that has watched, thank you guys so much. I will never, ever, ever take your time for granted, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please come back, drop some comments, questions in the comments below for what you want us to talk about on Friday. We love you guys so much. Please subscribe, hit that like button. And as always,
Come on,
Fins up, baby. Let's get it.
Shout out the chat. Yo, we're